Hi, and today let's have a little chat, let's have a little talk, one-to-one session, just you and me, let's talk about finger strength and cardistry. What do they have to do with each other? How can you improve your finger strength? Is doing this really fast really the key to being a cardistry master? All will be revealed in this episode of What Makes a Cut Good? So you know me for doing all them mad cardistry moves, right? I'm always flourishing these. I'm always doing things with those cards, eh? Always playing around with those cards. You probably are too if you're watching my channel. And sometimes you get a move that's just too hard. Your fingers can't cope with it. And you think, man, I wish I had stronger fingers. Well, see, that is where there's a common misconception. How did I find out about this misconception? Well, as well as being a cardistry person, I'm also a guitardistry person. See? Well, there's a similarity between cardistry and guitar. Don't worry, all these memes are leading to an important conclusion. Well, as cardists and as a guitarist, we are basically training our we're like athletes, but instead of athletes of the big motions like runners or like boxers who are all about them big motions, we're trying to be, as musicians and as cardists, the idea is to get as good as possible at fine motions, right? And fine motions actually take a lot more control and strength than big motions. It's weird to say, but it's true. Anyone who's played a musical instrument for a long time knows that, well, maybe not raw strength, but it's more about dexterity. Anyway, my point is, these fingers, there's barely any, this shit is nothing. It's barely any muscle. You couldn't, if you only had muscles in your fingers to control your fingers, you wouldn't be able to do any cardistry moves. No, there's just tendons and shit in your fingers. If I can be bothered to edit it, I'll show a gory picture of what the inside of a hand looks like when it's moving. It's actually this muscle right here that controls your fingers. Basically, it just pulls. So if you ever think, oh man, I wish my pinky was stronger, you don't actually wish your pinky was stronger. And lifting weights with your pinky is a good way to get carpal tunnel syndrome. What you really want is a strong forearm. So how do you get a strong forearm? Well, there's a couple of really easy ways. Is doing this the best way? Not really. It may help a bit with finger independence, which is another concept. Finger independence is basically, you can move, you notice how when I move my pinky, like this finger kind of comes along with it, and it's very difficult to make it not do that because they're connected inside the hand. But finger independence basically means being able to move each finger without the other ones moving. Very important in guitar, also very important in cardistry. But that's not the point I'm trying to make. Although training your finger independence will be a very useful skill. So when you think your pinky's not strong enough, don't be like, oh man, I need to exercise my pinky by lifting. No. What you need to do is exercise your forearm. And how do you exercise your forearm? Well, without damaging. That's the important thing. You don't want to have any form of injury, because that means you can't do any cardistry, and then you've missed the entire point. So here's what you do. Firstly, you just practice cardistry. Believe it or not, doing things that exercise muscles will make those muscles stronger. So if I'm doing cardistry, you'll probably have noticed by now, if you've been doing cardistry for a little while, that you can do this much easier than when you first started, because your fingers get used to the motions, your muscles are stronger, it's all better, it's all perfect, it's all a quality meme. But another great exercise if you really want to get big forearms. Also, big forearms are great for grip strength. Ignore that. If you want a new hobby, try rock climbing, because you ever talk to a rock climber, they've got massive fucking forearms because you need that grip strength. I keep doing that, but basically you need to hold on to these little rocks. It's very good for grip strength. Very nice. But another thing, this is a little tip I picked up back in, I googled it. Basically you get a pencil. I need to find a pencil so I can demonstrate this. Fuck. I have a pencil somewhere around here. I know it. I know there's pencils in this room. Here, ha! Alright. You get a pencil and you hold it at arm's length and you do this. Well, ideally, if you really want to be fancy about it and make some sort of DIY tools, you get a string, you tape it to the pencil. Do I have a string anywhere? No, I'm not bothered to do that. But you don't even need that. What you do, you just hold it out at arm's length like that, and then you twiddle it like this. You spin it forwards and backwards like this. And you do like a few reps of that, and then you go backwards and you do a few reps of that, and whatever. You'll feel your forearm gets tired very quickly because the muscles in your fingers are controlled by your forearm. So doing this fine motion with your forearm of twiddling the pencil, I can't remember if you're supposed to do it this way or this way, but either way, that's gonna improve your grip strength, and through that improve your pinky strength. So you may think that your pinky is not strong enough to do things, but that's wrong. You're wrong. You're an idiot. You're fucking idiot. Really, it's just as strong as all the other fingers. If it wasn't, I don't know what, but really, it's more about finger independence. So how do you train your finger independence? Well, if you play a musical instrument, then you may know that there's a good way to train your finger independence, which is to do exercises that move fingers independently. Huh? Really? That's not obvious at all. Let me give you a demonstration with my lovely guitar over here. Wow, did you see that? I just picked my camera up. It's almost like my camera's a phone or something. Oh wait. It is. This is going to be a very shit video. There's going to be barely any editing. It's just going to be me talking. I'm playing guitar. Guitar isn't even cardistry. Oh, how am I supposed to do this? Alright, I'm going to put you down here. Alright. So, for example, if you play guitar, I know a lot of you cardists do play guitar. I'm going to put it on this knee because it's more awkward on this knee. But yeah, a good thing to do is do things like this. So basically just I haven't warmed up. This is my first time playing guitar today, so if I'm shit, that's why. Fine motion your fingers. Basically what you're trying to do is not move your other fingers as much as possible. So you want to be barely moving. If you want a song to practice, because that's more interesting than just doing boring exercises, learn Flight of the Bumblebee. That's way too fast for me. Even I can't. Even me, being the guitar genius that I am, can't play it that fast. You get the idea. You're trying to train your independence of your fingers. Now, where's my cards? So, how do you train your finger independence with a deck of cards? Well, that's an interesting idea. That's a good question you asked yourself. You're smart, you're loyal, you know what you're talking about. Well done, you're asking good questions. Well, you gotta do cardistry, mate. You just practice cardistry. It's very easy. It's ridiculously easy. There's nothing to it. It's all just, you just do things with cards. You fucking retard. It's not hard. You just get better at cardistry by practicing cardistry. But what do you practice specifically? Well, let me give you a few ideas. You want to practice a good amount of things that you normally do in your left hand in your right hand, right? Most people can do Charlier cuts in both hands, right, and scissor cuts, but can you do, well, most people, apparently not me, but can you do that one Zach Mueller move that everyone really likes in both hands? Because I can't, I fucking can't, but that's a good way to exercise it, because most people have very good dexterity in one hand but not so great in the other hand, and that way you're more likely to get carpal tunnel syndrome or RSI, stuff like that. You don't want that, because then you can't flourish anymore. You'll notice, by the way, if you ever do get that, I've had it before, the pain tends to be here or here, because that's where the main muscles that control your fingers actually are. So how do you avoid carpal tunnel syndrome, you ask? I hear you asking through the screen. You want to basically remain loose at all times. You don't want to have some sort of, you don't want to be like tensing up. I know sometimes when you're trying to do difficult moves, it's hard not to tense up, but it's very important to stay relaxed, because if you spend too much time practicing and you're being bad at cardistry like me, maybe one day I'll learn to flourish. But if you you're practicing and everything is very tense, it's very easy to get injuries. So when you're practicing, you want to make sure your wrist is kind of loose. You don't want to be tense. Like, you don't want to have a solid kind of wrist. It will make your moves look better because there'll be more rotational asymmetry in them. A concept I will probably bring up again on what makes a cut good at some point. Rotational asymmetry, as I like to call it, is a very stupid and overly complicated name for something very simple. Yeah, that's one thing. And the other thing is you want to make sure your fingers are pretty loose. If it's a stretch, especially, even this, for some, I know if you're an experienced cardist, then this grip isn't very difficult, but for some people who are just beginning, this is a pretty big stretch. So if you're practicing this, just remember to keep your fingers as loose as possible, because that will make sure you avoid injury. Another thing to bring over from music to cardistry is when you're first learning a move, instead of just trying to do it at full speed straight away, just do it slowly, man. There's no need to not do it slowly. Just slow it down, because that way you get the muscle memory in your fingers really muscly. If you ever work out in the gym, I don't, but I know people who do, and I know one thing is very true. If you're one of those gym people who likes to lift weights, you know it's much harder to lift weights slowly than it is quickly. Because if you lift it slowly, you're putting more and more pressure on the fine movements in the muscles to make them actually like really work their hardest. So that sort of slow, smooth style of cardistry that's kind of popular nowadays is actually probably safer and more effective way of training your muscles than doing really fast squeezes or whatever people do, whatever you kids like to do these days. So this is kind of also comes down to geographical location. I've noticed that the sort of super fast, flourishy kind of, well, it's all flourishy, it's card flourishing. The like, it's basically a more, I call it like the Asian, it's not racist, this is just what I've noticed. That seems to be more popular in Asian countries. People like Jaspers, obviously, but there's also like, I mean, obviously it's not only Asian countries. You've got like Elliot Slevin, I don't know if that's how you pronounce his name. I think he's Australian, right? And he does that sort of super fast cut style. But he is another great person to look at if you want to develop your own finger skills, because he's doing, what's that one move that he has, that squeeze variation? I can't do it very well, but I think it's called screws. That was fucking terrible. Oh my god. But yeah, he's always very loose in his videos. You can see his fingers aren't cramped up, and that's what allows him to get that speed. Anyone who plays guitar or bass or any instrument really will know that in order to get really fast speed, you don't tense up, you actually do the opposite. Even though it seems kind of counterintuitive at first, you really want to stay loose, because A, you're avoiding. I'm rambling on about fucking nothing. This video is going to be like 14 minutes of me just chatting shit to the camera. What I'm trying to say is, to avoid injury and to flourish better, go slowly and keep your fingers loose. fuck's sake.